Welcome to The Randy Report. I'm Randy Slavacek, your host. I'm also the writer and editor of therandyreport.com, where you can find me every single day on the internet reporting on the daily news cycle in terms of politics, pop culture, and entertainment news of interest to the LGBTQ community. In this week's headlines, a gay couple was the target of a violent gay bashing after Miami Beach's Pride Parade. Senator Cory Booker called out Secretary of State nominee Mike Pompeo on his woeful record on LGBT rights. Newly elected Alabama Senator Doug Jones became the latest co-sponsor of the Equality Act, citing his son Carson's coming out as affecting his view on LGBTQ rights. And Matt Bomer's casting in the upcoming transgender-oriented film Anything gets boos from the transgender community. All that and more on this episode of The Randy Report. A gay couple in Miami Beach, Renee Shalarka and Dmitry Lagunov, were violently attacked by four men a week ago in South Beach shortly after Miami Beach's Gay Pride Parade. The four suspects were caught on surveillance video and photos, which were widely shared on social media, and by Tuesday, Miami Beach police confirmed that the four men surrendered through their attorney. They were identified by police as Luis Alfonso, 20 years old, and 20-year-olds Juan C. Lopez, Adonis Diaz, and Pablo Ronaldo Romo. Police said they anticipate felony charges for each of them. NBC Miami reported the victims were being called gay slurs in Spanish during the attack. They started to run away and were being chased by the suspects. A Good Samaritan who happened to be passing by, identified as Helmut Estrada, attempted to intervene but was also attacked. Shalarka, Laguna, and Estrada were all hospitalized. The four men face multiple counts of aggravated battery, but their charges could be enhanced if the state attorney's office deems the attack a hate crime. And Shalarka and Lagunov are certain they were targeted for being gay. Shalarka told NBC6, "For me, the way we were dressed and everything, we were together, it was like, yes, it was a hate crime." Good for the Miami Beach Police Department for acting so swiftly. Senator Cory Booker hammered Secretary of State nominee Mike Pompeo on his past views on LGBT rights, specifically that Pompeo called gay sex a perversion in past speeches. Pompeo was appearing before the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations as part of his confirmation process to replace outgoing Secretary of State Rex Tillerson. Senator Booker addressed Pompeo at the confirmation hearing, saying, "You've said in a speech mourning an America that endorses perversion and calls it an alternative lifestyle. Those are your words. Is being gay a perversion?" Pompeo responded saying, "Senator, when I was a politician, I had a very clear view on whether it was appropriate for two same-sex people to marry. I stand by that." Cory Booker pressed further, saying, "And so people in the State Department that are married under your leadership, you do not think that should be allowed?" And Pompeo said that he thinks that there are married couples in the CIA and he treats them the same as everyone else. At the end of his questioning, Booker said, "I will conclude by saying, sir, you're going to be Secretary of State of the United States in a time when we have an increase in hate speech, hate action against Jewish Americans, Muslim Americans, Indian Americans. Hate acts are on the increase in our nation. You're going to be representing this country and their values abroad in nations where gay individuals are under untold persecution, untold violence. Your views do matter. You're going to be dealing with Muslim states on Muslim issues. I do not necessarily concur that you're putting forth the values of our nation when you believe that there are people in our country that are perverse and where you think that you create different categories of Americans and their obligations when it comes to condemning violence." President and CEO of GLAAD, Kate Sarah Ellis, said in a press release, "Mike Pompeo's reaffirmed opposition to marriage equality and LGBTQ rights further proves that he is dangerously wrong to serve as our nation's chief diplomat. His personal ties to anti-LGBTQ hate groups such as the Family Research Council and clear refusal to support the hard-fought equal rights of the LGBTQ community make him wholly unqualified to promote human rights abroad. And she's right. Out zookeeper and hottie on Instagram, Carson Jones's influence on his dad, Democratic Senator from Alabama Doug Jones, is already evident in Jones's support for the Equality Act. This past week, Senator Jones became the latest co-sponsor of the Equality Act, federal legislation that would give LGBT folks clear and permanent protections under our nation's existing civil rights laws. In announcing his support, he said, "Every single American should be free from discrimination based on who they are or whom they love, no matter where they live. I'm proud to be a co-sponsor of the Equality Act and to continue moving conversations forward about LGBTQ equality." In a meeting with Gays, Lesbians, and Allies Senate staff, or GLASS, Jones discussed his son Carson, an openly gay student at Colorado State University. Carson's Instagram account has gained a huge following since Jones's Senate campaign. Jones also spoke about Carson's influence on his views on LGBTQ rights, saying, "Has it affected me? Absolutely. Everything affects you, but obviously a child affects you more than anything else. I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to be there to defend him." We've known for a long time that knowing someone gay makes people more likely to support equality, and so it's great to see that play out even in the families of our elected officials. Openly gay British diver Tom Daley and his diving partner Dan Goodfellow took the gold in the 10-meter synchronized event at the Commonwealth Games last week. Daley took the opportunity to speak out against the anti-gay laws that still exist in 37 Commonwealth countries. Speaking to The Guardian, Daley said, "There are 37 countries where it's illegal to be who I am out of all of the Commonwealth. So hopefully, we can reduce that number between now and the next games." Coming to the Gold Coast in Australia and being able to live as an openly gay man is really important in being able to feel comfortable with who you are when standing on that diving board. For 37 countries that are here participating, that's very much not the case. Daley also addressed traveling to Russia in May to compete in the World Diving Series, saying, "Going to Russia can be scary because you've got to compete in front of lots of people, and lots of people know that I've got a husband. I think you've got to face those things and try and make a change." Good on Daley for using his moment to stand up for so many in the LGBTQ community. In queer cinema, Matt Bomer stars in the upcoming film adaptation of Timothy McNeil's Anything, which chronicles the relationship of transgender sex worker Frida von Rainberg, played by Bomer, with widower Early Landry, played by John Carroll Lynch. Early is a heartbroken widower who decides to get his life in order by moving to Hollywood after the sudden death of his wife, where he meets Frida, who happens to be his neighbor. They start to develop a relationship, much to the confusion and frustration of those closest to him. The casting of Bomer as a transgender woman 2 years ago rekindled long-standing frictions between the trans community and Hollywood. Bomer joins Eddie Redmayne and Jared Leto on the list of high-profile cisgender men who have played roles depicting the stories of transgender women. Reaction to the news of Bomer's casting angered many trans actors, advocates, and allies. Actor and producer Mark Ruffalo, who serves as the producer on the project, took to Twitter to react to the outrage, saying in part, "To the trans community, I hear you. It's wrenching to see you in this pain. I'm glad we're having this conversation." But in addressing the idea that the role be recast, Ruffalo shared that the film had already been shot and Bomer had, quote, "poured his heart and soul into this part. Please have a little compassion. We are all learning," end quote. While the movie's first trailer plays up an overriding message of love and acceptance, it's unclear if the film can be a success without the LGBTQ community rallying behind the flick. I'm not one to be confident that a movie about the relationship between a straight man and a transgender woman is going to attract much of a straight male audience, and if you pissed off the LGBTQ community, who's left to buy a ticket? The film did make a splash when it debuted at the Los Angeles Film Festival in 2017 and took home an award for John Carroll Lynch's performance. Anything opens in New York on May 11th and in Los Angeles and other markets on May 18th. Austrian recording artist and drag queen Conchita Wurst, who triumphed as the Eurovision winner in 2014, has come out as HIV positive, acknowledging regular treatment for several years. The BBC reports that the 29-year-old said he had intended to keep the information private, but a blackmail threat from an ex-boyfriend who had threatened to go public pushed Wurst to take matters into his own hands. And so, Wurst, the alter ego of singer Thomas Newworth, decided to come out and take away the ex's power, saying, "I will not give anyone the right to frighten me and influence my life." Coming out is better than being outed by a third party. Wurst added that regular treatment had suppressed the virus to the extent it could no longer be detected in his blood and so could no longer be passed on to partners. Wurst added, "I hope to give others courage and to take another step against the stigmatization of people who, through their own behavior or that of others, have become infected with HIV." I think it goes without saying that going public with someone's HIV status is a deeply personal issue that has to be determined by each person who faces HIV themselves. It's hideous to think that Wurst's former boyfriend would make such a threat. And that brings me to the end of this episode of The Randy Report. If you enjoy catching up on the week's LGBTQ news in a quick 15-20-minute podcast, I'd appreciate it if you would share The Randy Report with your friends. I like to think of this podcast as the 60 minutes of gay news, only shorter. And remember, you can find me every single day on the internet at therandyreport.com, where I cover the daily news cycle regarding politics, pop culture, and entertainment news of interest to the LGBTQ community. I'm going to close this episode with the latest sassy serving from musical political parody star Randy Rainbow, who recently shared some of his most incisive lyrics in the new Trump insanity anthem, "You Can't Stop His Tweets," based on the finale of the Broadway hit Hairspray, "You Can't Stop the Beat." It's a hilarious but accurate commentary on our sad inability to stop our tweeter-in-chief. Hope you enjoy. Thanks for listening, folks. See you next time.
You can't stop the arrogance of a racist off his pills. You can try to stop the sneaky right propaganda that he shills. And you can try to be a president with no competence or skills. But the worst is surely yet to come, 'cause he just can't stop his tiny thumb. And he's lost what was left of his mind, now he's full on cray-cray. And you can't stop his tweets since before he tried politics. Way back when Twitter first was founded in 2006. We've all been blocking cyber trolls and keeping lunatics at bay. But you can't block the damage to democracy he's likely to do. You can wonder why his hair looks like a pile of poo. But when the cyber trolling lunatic is running the USA, you can't stop his tweets.
Sir, the administration says you resigned as Veterans Affairs Secretary, but you have another story. What is the truth?
Well, the Vacancy Act is a very complex...
Cut the crap. Did he fire you on Twitter?
Yes.
You can't stop the rhetoric that rushes through his lips. You can try to stop his stupid face as it stares at any clips. But if you call him on his bullshit, he'll fire back from his fingertips. 'Cause he just keeps tweeting lies like these, full of typos and hypocrisy. So if you're smart like the vice president, you'll get on your knees and pray, yes. 'Cause you can't stop his tweets, and he couldn't be seedier, because he fires his whole staff on social media. And he's less educated than his Wikipedia might say, hey. So he can't comprehend that there's no border wall 'cause no one will build it, or just admit the deal on DACA's dead 'cause he killed it. See, he's kinda lost his marbles, which is why I'm not thrilled to say that you can't stop his tweets.
President Trump is applying a tremendous amount of pressure, just like he did with little rocket man Kim Jong-un. Now it's about time an American president stood up for our country's sovereignty.
You can't stop his sycophants 'cause their heads are up his ass. And you just can't trust a flim-flam man as he scams the working class. And you can ask him to be rational, but my guess is he'll probably pass. Cause he bashes Amazon with glee and he toys with the economy. Cause he's lost and he's just a thug. Oh, and by the way, you can't stop his Twitter temper tantrums when he finally snaps. They're like an email from your grandma written only in caps. And you can try to break his phone, but still he violently taps away. Cause he can't help but pander to his pals and pick on low-hanging fruit. And so he criticizes Oprah while he praises Putin. You can spank him with a magazine and buy him a new toupee, but you can't stop his tweets.
And I think he's been very clear that when he gets attacked, he's going to hit back. I think the American people elected somebody who's tough, who's smart, and who's a fighter. And that's Donald Trump.
Oh, you can't justify why all his tweets are always packed with 280 characters and not one single fact.
Fake news.
But the Russia probe is looming now and he's trying to distract. Cause his girlfriends are all talking smack and the special counsel's on his back. It's no wonder his self-doubt and insecurity's on display. And you can try to coax him from contributing to plummeting stocks and blowing dog whistles that rile up his bitches at Fox. You can wonder, you can ponder how a president talks this way. But you can't stop his tweets, cause his blood pressure is starting to climb. And now he's freaking out because he knows it's Mueller time. And if they finally find him guilty of committing a crime, he'll pay. But you can't stop his tweets.
Trump on a Twitter tirade.
One more tweet from the president. Trump is in a Twitter storm.
And you can disagree with him or plead with him to cut out the crap, because he's gonna kill us all with just one iPhone app. But unless you're his own daughter, you can't sit in his lap and say that he should drop the bragging and the nagging, every slander and slur about the Dems and CNN and Stormy. Not her. Look, you can block, unfollow, mute him and dispute him, but there's no way that you can stop his tweets. He won't stop the